Welcome everyone to the session on K-pop, fandom, and cultural practice. I'm the chair. My name is Young Han Cho, a professor in Hankuk University of Foreign Studies, shortly WEDE. So it's very nice to see you, all of you. Yeah. And I assume that most of you already enjoyed very excellent sections and round table of yesterday and in the morning. I'm pretty sure that this afternoon section will be another exciting one, particularly the presenters are the emerging scholar in the field. So please be prepared to listen and to participate in this session actively. Just before start, I want to inform you how the session goes. So we have 4 presenters and 2 discussants, and it's 2 hours long. So it begins with the 2 presenters, respective by William Duncan and the Tabitha Adler, and then followed by the discussant, the Professor Lisa Rung, and then we'll have open the floor to have discussion on the 2 presenters. Then we move to another 2 presentations, respectively by the Hemi Rim and the Mei Chen Sun, followed by discussant Professor Kim Seok-young, and we will be end with the round table for the last 2 papers. If then we have some time, then we have some overall, the discussion for the older papers. So, ready? So I want to introduce first 2 speakers. The first one is William Duncan from University of California, Irvine. And his topic is about anything to say to your fans, gendered fandom and labor in Korean esports. And the second presenter, Tabitha Adler. She is from Goethe University of Frankfurt. She talks about self-made K-pop photocard in South Africa, local fans and practice as a way of dealing with South Korean pop culture. Before we start, I want to save some of you, because it's a 2-hour session, so it's a bit too exhausting for sit over there, and I assume that more audience will become, so please find your seat between if you have your bag on the chair, please leave the chair for the people. And okay, I continue. So our first speaker, unfortunately, cannot come to the spot, but he is in the through the Zoom. So please welcome William Duncan. You have 15 minutes, please.
Hi. Sorry that I can't be there in person. I had some visa issues, and as a result, I'm kind of doing a pirate broadcast from my local university where I don't have access to any of the buildings anymore. So hopefully my network continues to stay strong and that security doesn't come and usher me away. I guess to start, though, I want to just share my screen. Am I sharing or not?
Now we can see your slides, so please go ahead.
Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you. And you said 15 minutes? Okay, all right, I'll go quickly. So yes, this is this is some work I did for my dissertation about gendered fandom, labor in Korean esports. This is about fieldwork that kind of existed starting as early as 2022 here in California, and it kind of extends and goes all the way to the spring of 2025 in Seoul. So kind of covers a couple of years of the Overwatch esports scene. Since this is kind of a Korean studies focused a conference, I wanted to kind of begin by introducing and kind of like talking a little bit about some of the ideas of game studies before I kind of get to the key points of what I'm going to be talking about and how in relation to how gender is performed and kind of expresses itself within these spaces of esports. So without further ado, I attended the 2022 Overwatch League Grand Final held at the Anaheim Convention Center, a premier event of the OWL calendar. When I was there, the crowd was filled with young men in their teens and 20s. they were particularly enthusiastic. And I recall one man kind of dressed in the outfit and the jersey of one of the teams was stomping up and down the venue, trying to get his team and the fans to roar uproariously to kind of support the team. And this is the type of scene that you would expect to see really in any sort of traditional sports scene, or esports scene, where it's not uncommon to see kind of like this cosplay and this particular relationship of kind of directly engaging with the act of cheering. What we're going to see is, though, when I was attending Korean esports, it's kind of a different vibe, and it kind of switches in a situation where rather than having a showcase where it is a space for young men to kind of participate in the act of gaming, what you see in Korea is at live events, it's largely a space of young women to operate and engage with gaming, which is very much not the norm across Western esports scenes. So to kind of show how case like the interconnections between esports and other K-pop, at this particular event, there was the K-pop group La Seraphim was promoting their collaboration with Blizzard's Overwatch 2 esports, where they had in-game skins and emotes where you could go into the game and kind of embody these characters of these female players, of these idols, and participate both in your K-pop fandom as well as your fandom of the game. And there's kind of this merging of Korean cultural identities with inside game spaces. Following the release and during which they also created a particular video where a music video for the game that where the players and the heroes of the game are formally shown in the space, and you kind of operate this. This then led to a larger merchandising and crossover between the two. As I said, there was a lot of opportunities for fans of both the K-pop groups as well as the game to kind of engage with this particular demonstration of fandom. But as I kind of said, like there is this particular myth that exists within game studies, or the belief that games are largely the space for young men. And this, while it's been considered the site of male dominion for nearly as long as they've been a mainstream commodity, they were always kind of marketed towards boys in the 80s and the 90s. Despite concentrated efforts by software developers and game designers, they really struggle to break up this kind of like masculine idea of games. And as a result, many of the analysis and focus in game studies was about how men and boys played and operated and interacted with games. And while there exists a great number of scholarship that engages with how gender is existing with these cultures here, so much of it is really focused on that particular focus of boys with boy toys and that kind of idea. But I wanted to kind of see was how women are unfolding and showing case is in these spaces a little bit more. This paper aims to complicate and disrupt that understanding by underpinning how within the most prominent and successful professional gaming spaces, Korean esports, women are a vital component and organizational linchpin for the development as a commodity. Doing this, I combined interviews with esports staffs, broadcasters, and fans and players, highlighting how gender roles are imagined and processed within Korean esports spaces, exploring how feminine attitudes, values, and behavior structure interaction between fans and players, as well as how gender lends organization and purpose to the domestic esports industry. As we think about the conditions of the Korean state and how these conditions impact the access to played spaces of esports, it's also useful to think about the dual concepts of places and space. Harrison and Dorish talk about place and space in regards to human-computer interaction, introducing them essentially as two accounts of spaces, one being a geometric account and the other experiential account. This social concept is then kind of further developed to describe how both place and space are products of society that utilize different social practices. This becomes relevant in understanding how the places and spaces that Korean esports occupies, as they are fundamentally organized by the social conditions of Korean society. This, of course, includes the historical, cultural, and political realities of life in Korea. Now, why are we talking about esports? What's the big deal? We're already here, and since there's I'm already 6 minutes into the presentation, I will just kind of say esports are a big deal. As you can see, they're constantly in the news, whether for their relationships to activism or just kind of their commodity and kind of spectacle. As esports has developed as an industry, though, it has begun to receive a lot of recognition both from world leaders, commercial experts, and it's seen as a valuable sites of interaction. Korea, while having declined over the past decade in the realms of esports, still remains a particularly relevant location for esports research, being the first country to develop a national esports league, as well as developing public policy, schools, and broadcasting services, all aimed at esports. The trouble with this is that kind of game studies exists at this particular crossroads where it is struggling to engage with the cultural context and local context of games outside of a Western lens. And so part of this work is part of a larger ambition to kind of recenter and kind of like reorganize local game studies to better engage with the local conditions of Korea, as they are so relevant and popular and meaningful, not only to the esports industry domestically, but also globally. There isn't enough time to kind of get into this particular interesting, but I can share that later if there are some questions. When examining the local Korean gaming and esports industry communities, it's crucial to consider how the local context shapes its development and reception. Just as Resident Evil 5 reflects Japanese perspectives, despite having a global reach and distribution, Korean games and esports are imbued with distinctly Korean cultural values, social norms, and historical contexts. This local specificity is evident in the structure of Korean esports organizations, the dynamics of fan engagement, and even the game design choices made by Korean developers. As Alan Gutman writes in Games and Empire, sports are often seen as exported from the empire to its colonies, so that its players appear deific and the colonists accept the colonizers' rules and play styles to meet them on an equal field. Looking at the collapse of England's once powerful cricket teams, sports author Mike Marchese provides a rationale that shows how sports emerged from conditions of colonial imperialism to depict relationships between sport and society. Similarly, in cataloging newfound critic dominance of historically dominated colonies like the West Indies over England, Marchese bears the remnants of nationalism and Western imperialism in sport. This racism, classism, hypocrisy, and elitism that pervaded English cricket in the 80s and 90s echoes similar relationships between the nation and its former colonies. C.L.R. James, in his seminal autobiography about cricket and life in colonial Trinidad, notes, "Cricket had plunged me into the world of politics long before I was aware of it. When I turned to politics, I did not have much to learn." For James, cricket was provided the necessary lens to understand the ways in which racism, classism, and colonial hegemony was still unfolding in the daily life for Trinidadians. In noting how class and race segregated teams would play cricket matches amicably supporting one another with a sense of equality, would then return to their allotted class stations with all the awarded privilege or necessary deference following the conclusion of a match, pointing out the hypocrisy of colonial conditions on the island of Trinidad. Examinations into Korean esports can be said to follow a similar pattern, where conditions found in the arena, the lobby, both the game lobby and the physical lobby where these events take place, establish rules of etiquette, respect, and compassion, which are then subject to the same expectations of Korean social norms regarding celebrity fan interactions, as well as gender norms. However, it is these norms that falter the further afield from the play occur, as one Korean esports star disclosed to me, as you can see in this particular quote from one of the players about how the relationship between fans operates under a specific set of logics within Korea, but when the Korean player is brought into non-Korean environments, the kind of rules change, and the understanding of how they're supposed to interact with as a player and fan kind of gets blurred. As Korea is more neoliberal than it was at the turn of the century, Korean youth find themselves mired in the stagnation of a looming lost decade, where opportunities are few, risk is high, and failure hangs over everyone like a veil or fog of war, hiding ever greater problems around the bend. This all comes into play as you see this particular youth activity of esports, where you're seeing this kind of relationship to precarity unfolding not only in the access of fans, but also in the way that the players are kind of pushing themselves to succeed. The conditions resulting from such hardships has led to locals to earlier describe Korea as Hell-Joseon. As safety nets and security once provided by the state have evaporated, demands to embrace new means of self-reliance further take their toll on Korean youth. Online gaming and esports becomes a means to escape both the pressures of daily life for Korean youth, but also an opportunity for a career, predominantly for men, in an environment largely devoid of opportunities. So now, attributing the success of Korean esports singularly to the quality of talent eschews the other modes of value that are packaged within culture and media. Conversations with fans attending offline matches challenge the narrative that quality of skill was the sole reason for engaging esports as a fan. One fan disclosing that they got interested in esports initially because they had played the game Overwatch with friends, but they stayed involved in the game because of the relationships that were formed with other fans, the players, and even broadcasters. While esports exists within digital and physical spaces, the player-fan relationship spans across those same divides. And furthermore, becoming complicated with the addition of streaming platforms, as we're seeing that esports has become a major site of affective labor. As broadcasters engage in activities that rely upon affective engagement with their audiences, an audience then create personalized relationships with the players and the broadcasters that they then build upon when they show up at the stadium. From conversations with players, it becomes clear that Korean esports players are fully aware of the difficulties they're facing in contemporary Korean society. Former OWL player and current member of From the Gamer, Junwoo Vindae Park, expressed that he had no clue as to what he was going to happen with his career following his time as a player, but that what he wanted to do was be able to perform his best anyway. These worries played out not only in the realm of competition at games, but also in the forced particular neoliberal expectations to be consumable commodities for their fans. However, the tensions that exist where these players and fans demonstrate a desire to create co-constitutive spaces where celebrity is meaningful to provide space for growth and against the precarity that plagues so much of youth labor. Within this context of Korean esports, communal relationship between Korean fans and players provides opportunity for these players to overcome such difficulties, kind of creating a buffer or resistance to the normal frustrations that would be forced upon these players in such a precarious industry. As the global esports industry demands greater influx of young players who devote their time, skills, and energy to the playing of games, Korea has established a particular strategy on the development of players that is reliant upon the support of these fan communities. One such example is a fan favorite organization of Runway, as an organization that captured the hearts of many Koreans and global esports fans from back in 2016. Runaway gained special notoriety for their hot pink uniforms and particularly bold presentation by their team owner, Hyuna Flower Vin Lee, and her co-owner husband, himself an Overwatch esport talent, Daehyun Runner Yu. Well, the team had officially disbanded after successfully earning all of its member positions, getting its teammates to enter into the most predominant league, OWL, in 2021. They resurfaced following the collapse of the Overwatch League and the rise of the kind of newly reorganized Overwatch World Championship Series, which is the most dominant Overwatch League currently in Korea and worldwide. While they were consisting entirely of former stand-up players, I recall from Finland's following the loss, the kind of brave support that they were given by their fans, despite kind of failing to achieve the success that many of their teammates wanted and their fans were hoping for. In looking at how Korean esports fandom is gendered, I began to see how women maintain an important position with the Korean esports scene. Contrary to Western fan norms that typically sideline or marginalize female participation, Korean women are active participants within these esports communities and often the driving force behind the organizational efforts locally. While contemporary Korean society is grappling with major gender issues that are often highlighted in online-offline discourse, Korean esports provide opportunities for many actors, male and female, to operate and cultivate their interest of the sport. In striking contrast to how esports fandom operates in Western contexts, this fandom really relies greatly on this female participation. But while the fandom and participation is kind of accepted, you are seeing that the roles that women are being placed into are largely supportive roles when they find opportunities to work as labor. In spite of the potential for cross-gendered play, most play in esports is still siloed by gender, oftentimes used as a way to promote an access for women to kind of gain interest into the spaces, free from kind of the toxicity of online male players. However, structural barriers to female participation also complicate the industry, whereas situations like Molly Avala Kim are common for women, where she was an incredibly skilled player, but she was unable to continue her desire to be a professional player because she wasn't able to stay in the team dormitory. So it was much more difficult for her to gain additional playtime because while all of the men were organized in a particular kind of like group house, she had to be housed separately. And so as a result, she wasn't able to get the same type of practice and was found particular burdens to her participation as a player. As a result, she shifted into a coach role. This part. So in Korean society, feminist scholars have criticized the mainstream use research on ignoring gender dimensions of precarity. Particularly, Bay has criticized how youth discourse in South Korea, presuming the youth population to be predominantly male and understanding disillusion through the standardized life cycle of modern men, specifically how women are forced continually into these particular opportunities to support men in their ambitions and opportunities in the workplace. Bay attributes this phenomenon to gender blindness that perceives women as supporters in men's lives, resulting in absorption of gender disparities within class or generational disparities, making the gender disparities invisible. This is then, of course, challenging Korean esports fandom as these Korean women engage in the dual role of support and consumption, which is similarly seen in modes of K-pop fandom and sports fandom. In the same way that Korean female fans are participating in sports at ever greater levels, the New York Times, quoting the Korean Professional Sports Associate's data, stating that 55% of professional sports fans are now women, these female fans have developed a new sports fan culture, actively incorporating K-pop idol culture into the Korean football industry, where they travel abroad to attend football games, send coffee trucks to show their support, and secure first row seats to take photos of the football players. The rise in female participation in sports is then echoed in the realm of Korean esports as female fans challenge the structural sexism that positions them as passive observers whose interests are only those that can be found within the context of a household or family. As you can see here in this picture, this is an example of the Korean female fans found that this one team, Team Yeti, didn't have the same type of professional jerseys as their competitors. So they organized a local fan group to kind of collect money and then provide professional looking uniforms so that they could be on the same level, at the least visually, in these kind of matches, kind of showcasing their ways of organizing and participating to elevate the production quality of Korean esports. But Korean esports and fandom in Korea is product of larger gender dynamics within Korean society, where esports venues and events serve as unique social spaces where young women can interact with men, both male fans and players on more equal footing. This phenomenon is particularly significant as it offers an alternative avenue for celebrity fandom, distinct from the more established K-pop industry. What is seen in Korean esports fandom is simultaneously occurring across multiple arenas of Korean sports fandom. Much in the same way that Korean soccer and soccer media is being repositioned to accommodate the increase of female participants, where streaming personalities express and perform their gender potential, in which they promote their gender identity to obtain celebrity power, authorize female and analytical sensibilities, and demasculinize the media spectacle of sports arenas, Korean esports is also transitioning to embody those same opportunities. However, while the prominence and access to esports by women has increased, these fandoms have yet to open up the possibilities for more professional engagement with the sports outside of traditional positions of match reporter or support staff, which in itself continues the trend of positioning females entirely within supportive roles in sports labor. On the other hand, witnessing Korean females challenge the norms of fandoms locally leads to the hope that global gendered inequality in esports can be overcome through shared experience and pursuit of fandom. All right, thank you.
Thank you, William. Next speaker is the Tabitha Adler. She talks about the self-made K-pop photo cart in South Africa. So how local fans practice as a way of dealing with South Korean pop culture.
Okay, let me track my time. So, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. Today I present about Kpop photo cards in South Africa. This is part of my dissertation project and also of a bigger interdisciplinary project that's funded by the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research. So when I was in South Africa earlier this year, when I went to fan events or events or at shops, everywhere I went to, I encountered photo cards in different versions. This is not something that I only find in South Africa, also in Germany and Korea, it's the same, but there are differences in the practices and how you get to these photo cards. So I want to start by giving you an introduction to my methodological framework. So when I look at, because I come from a media studies background, so with technological changes and societal changes, media has been changing rapidly, much faster than we've been used to. And that also means we have to change how we understand media. So McLuhan famously said, the content of any medium is always another medium. But Schüttpels and Giesmann thought this further and they called it Medien der Kooperation or media of cooperation. And they said instead of thinking of one medium, we have to think of a combination of different media practices at a certain point of time, which are based on a given infrastructure within a defined period. So I want to look at different practices within a certain period and with a certain infrastructure. For this, I use the methods of media analysis, so physical media, but also visual and online media, and also ethnographic methods like participant observation and semi-structured and in-depth interviews, and also digital ethnography. And I focus on South Africa, but also always on Germany and South Korea, because I'm based in Germany and Korea is the origin of this content. So I focus on fandom and local infrastructures, especially production, distribution, and promotion, but also more general infrastructures. So I don't know who of you has seen a photo card before. Here's one example. They're really small. So they're typically a 5.5 times 8.5 centimeter photo card picture that shows a picture of an idol. In the front and in the back, there's usually a message or a logo. And they're inclusions in albums or merchandise, but you can also buy them in photo card packs or get them in events. The first K-pop album, here's a mistake, it's supposed to say 2010. So the first album with photo cards included was Girls' Generation's O from 2010. And since then, photo cards have become an essential part of K-pop fan culture. So a little dictionary, so we have selfie photo cards, which are photo cards with selfies. Then we have concept photo cards, which are photo cards that do not contain a selfie, but another type of picture, and LOMO cards, which are unofficial photo cards made by a third party. So the red ones are selfie photo cards, and the yellow ones are concept photo cards, and then we have 2 LOMO cards. And you can see the logo and the message in the back. And the LOMO cards are usually a more generalized logo that's maybe taken online or quickly put together. So there hasn't been much research on photo cards yet. There has been one work from Wang on photo cards that describes it as a peripheral product that presents triple characteristics of object, symbol, and medium, and is consumed by fans, and they are included in individual fan practice, but also in the overall fandom practices. And then also there has been work on that photo cards are a tool of mediated intimacy, which is also seen in the way they are being described. So people, for example, would say, oh, I take my Becky always with me, instead of saying, oh, I take my photo card with me. So if you want to get a photo card in Germany or Korea, there are different ways. So you can have the album photo card, or you can have a collaboration photo card, which is a collaboration between the entertainment company that idol is employed with and another company. For example, in this case, it's a magazine, but there are also coffee shops and other ways. And then you have the merchandise photo card. In this case, it's a light stick. And then you have event-exclusive photo cards. These could be either for comebacks when you buy the album from this website, or if you go to a concert, you can get a photo card as well. And then you have the fan event photo card. So I want to differentiate between the LOMO card and the fan-made photo card, because the LOMO card is a usually mass-produced third-party company photo card that is made for a financial gain. The fan-made photo card, on the other hand, is produced by fans or a fan, and for this they require insider knowledge on the fandom. So they need to know which outfit do I like a lot, or which outfit is really popular within the fandom, which event was liked, where is a picture that maybe people want as a photo card but it doesn't exist yet. Also, it includes a lot of personal preference and on the idol and also on aesthetic to decide which content is used. And it also requires local connections and infrastructures to produce and distribute these cards. Fan-made photo cards can also be sold for financial gain, but it's compared to the LOMO card, which are mass-produced, with just the gain of making money with these cards. And also importantly, LOMO cards and fan-made photo cards are not pirated or copied versions, so there's not an original equivalent, and everyone who's involved in this process knows I'm not buying an original card. So when we look at K-pop fans in South Africa, it's a question, has South Africa been forgotten by the industry? The Korean government distributed a lot of K-drama rights in African countries, for example, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, but that was not the case in South Africa because South Africa has a really big television company, or they have a lot of programs, so they didn't have the space to insert Korean dramas. So because of that, South Africans came not into contact with K-dramas before. For example, when you speak to Nigerian K-content fans, most of them have been K-drama fans first, but in South Africa, most of them have gotten to know Korean content through K-pop. And because of this, K-pop is the driving force of popularity of K-content in South Africa. And one symptom of this is the opening of the Korean Cultural Center in 2022, because with the pandemic, K-pop has become much more popular. K-pop is also the biggest, South Africa is the biggest market for K-pop in sub-Saharan Africa. But for the boom of K-pop, it's said that entertainment companies really are the driving force behind this. They're deciding where are they distributing their content, in which markets are they going. But they haven't shown any interest in the South African market yet. Probably because they assume they wouldn't make large profits in the African market. But this causes a lot of frustration among K-content fans or people who would like to enjoy this content. When I spoke to a representative from YG at the Korean Brand and Entertainment Expo in Frankfurt 2 years ago, he told me we focus globally now. And when I said, oh, that's great because I focus on South African K-pop fans, he quickly corrected himself and said, oh, I mean globally except Africa, of course. So a representative from the Korean Cultural Center in Pretoria told me, you know what, my opinion is if it wasn't for K-pop, I don't think the center would have opened here because K-pop blew up all of the sudden during COVID-19, specifically in South Africa. So the center opened up at the right time when K-pop was such a big thing to people in South Africa. Without K-pop, I don't think we would have had so many younger generation people come here. She also told me that most of the people visiting are K-pop fans or their kids with their parents. They enjoy K-pop and want to know more about K-pop and about Korean culture. So what they offer is dancing classes, singing classes. They also have cultural festivals. They also offer exhibitions on traditional Korean culture, but also on K-pop and contemporary Korean culture. And right now, they are the only institution in South Africa that offers any type of K-pop content and has direct infrastructures to Korea and a connection to Korea. So if I am a K-pop fan in South Africa, I have two options how I can meet other K-pop fans in person and connect with the community. So I can go to the Korean Cultural Center or to K-pop fan events. And the Korean Cultural Center is a Korean government institution that offers, like I said, language, cooking classes, singing, dancing classes, and events. And it aims to promote Korean culture by using K-pop as a vessel. And it employs local fans as dance teachers and also event organizers, and they're mostly operating in Pretoria. K-pop fan events, on the other hand, are organized by individual fans or groups, and they offer different events and picnics, and they try to connect the fandom through these events. And usually there are also always K-pop vendors there. And they're in the major cities, Johannesburg, Pretoria, Cape Town, and Durban. So what do they do with the photo card? So there are different ways, different practices. So you can collect or trade the card, and you also have the connection to the idol through the fandom and through the medium. So you have the selfie that this idol took, and you can carry it with you anywhere where you go. You can use it as decoration for bags and outfits, and it's a way of identification. So with the idol, within the fandom, and as a fan. And it's also a way of carrying the private fan identity into a public space. And it's also bringing Korean content into a public South African space. One fan told me, it feels like I'm connecting with someone. It's that kind of community building. It's so natural to see someone having a K-pop photo card at an event. But I feel like it's almost more special in public where not everybody knows what a photo card is. And if you approach someone or vice versa, it's like, oh my gosh, seeing K-pop fans in the wild, especially with how long it took K-pop to rise within South Africa. So, to sum this up, because of time issues, but there are a few ways how you could get a photo card, an official photo card in South Africa. It's by buying an album, by trading, or by buying from local vendors. But we have here the issue of availability because it's really difficult to import things and also expensive. So the solution is to have fan-made photo cards. These are usually made by local vendors, and these vendors are usually young girls between 15 and their early 20s. And usually really often, they operate together with their parents, sometimes even grandparents. And they sell their products at events or online. And some import their products, but most of them, they make themselves and also support their livelihood with this. And by this, they fill up the space that entertainment companies leave open, and they find a solution to this absence. And through that, they also become entrepreneurs. So here are some pictures of vendors in South Africa. So they're really popular because they're small and easy to make. They're also much cheaper. So an original card would be 80 to 200 Rand, but a fan-made card is only 10 to 20 Rand. So it's much more affordable, especially if you consider it's just a printed picture. So here's some example. Here's also one. I have some with me if you're interested later to observe them, but you can see, not to say, just to look. But you see they have different sizes. They also have, it's from one vendor, but she has different materials used. And this vendor specifically, she takes pictures and then paints them digitally and then prints them as a photo card. So she has her own twist on them as well. So we have this process in creating this fan-made photo card. It's first they have to collect and decide on the picture, okay, which photo do they want to use, which photo doesn't actually exist as a photo card. And then they have to find the material to print this photo card and to create it. Sometimes they have to paint it as well, and then they have to print it and decide, do I go to a shop that I trust? Is there one there I trust, or can I print it at home? Then how do I cut it into the right shape? And also, do I sell them? Where do I sell them? And here, personal preference and also insider knowledge is really essential. So, to conclude, K-pop photo cards are an essential part of K-pop fan culture, not only in South Africa, but globally, and they're connected in a variety of fan practices. But these photo cards are really important for South African fans because it's a way of connecting with other fans in a public space, in a country where there's not much content available. And it's also really expensive and difficult to acquire official photo cards. So the solution is that local vendors will produce their own photo cards and sell them, or sell Lomo cards. And by this, photo cards bring Korean popular culture into the public space in South Africa, and it creates visibility and also interest with other people. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now I want to invite all the presenters as well as discussant. William, are you still there? Okay, so our precious discussant is Lisa Rung from Lingnan University. She'll comment on both papers in a less than 10 minutes, okay? Yeah, so if you are ready, please.
Sure. Thank you very much for two very fascinating papers. There's so much I can ask, but for the interest of time and for the audience, massive audience here, I'll try to cut it short. Now, thank you very much, William, for your paper, which takes us to, of course, this fast-growing area called esports. And I'm sorry, I got your paper much earlier than, I saw the PowerPoint. So I was reading your paper, which actually was quite an overview of the various perspectives we can take. But let's put that aside. I guess what you're trying to focus on is to look at the female fan participation of esports fans, right? And then I think you're trying to look at it from a gender perspective to ask why, there are so many female fans over the esports, which of course contrasts it with the otherwise quite masculine participation of esports gamers themselves. Now, if that is what you're trying to deal with, then we're looking at the specificity of esports in the context of sports in itself, which you talk about cricket and our imagination of sports as very masculine. And there's a lot of literature about the kind of masculinity that's displayed in sports. And on the other hand, you have got a lot of literatures about online games or gaming studies. I think this is an area you're in, which again, talks about a lot of the gender perspective, including a lot of sexism that's around online gaming, where we are still talking about high percentage of gamers being male. But there are actually a lot of female gamers who experience online harassment, sexism, hate speech once they expose themselves as females. And that might also correlate with the asymmetry in the percentage of participation of esports female gamers, which is still in a very low percentage. So I think this is the picture we're in. So if this is a picture, then my question is, and also in K-dramas, Korean wave, or in other kind of popular culture, we do find a similar scene of female fans, shouting, chanting, cheering, doing a lot of fan merchandise, So I think my question is, how can you tell us more about the specificity of female fans of esports? Because I also read in your paper, you were doing some interviews, obviously, with some female fans. And they said, while I like, I like this community with the hanging out with these female fans, cheering for our, heroes, and then having, some drinks and, chips at the stadium. So this is the specificity of esports, right? You're talking about a level of spectatorship, of the games itself. There's a level of spectatorship of the players being mostly men, which has got a different kind of physique than the kind of footballers or basketball players, or the masculinity that is displayed in other kinds of physical sports. So you're talking about different kinds of masculinity displayed among male esport gamers. And then you've got the stadium, the physicality of the stadium, which is different from the concert itself. So then the question is, what are the female fans consuming here that makes them so, craving for this kind of esports? So I think this is a big question that I'd like to ask William. So because of interest of time, we can talk more later. I'm moving on to Tabitha's paper, which is, of course, again, very fascinating, which takes us to another frontier that is actually forgotten. I agree with you, South Africa. Indeed, we need to know much, much more about the whole, setting there, right? If we trace, the expansion of K-pop, South Africa is definitely some locales that has got its own local dynamics, which again begs a lot of questions. But I think your question is grounded on a media studies question, which, of course, thanks to McLuhan, a medium is another medium is another medium. And so the question about photocards is fascinating because, photocard, by now, we're talking about different layers of photocards, as you have very well displayed. Lomo cards, which are made by third parties, companies, business intervention. And then you have got these self-made cards, which of course is the kind of the kind of footprints of the fans themselves, right? So if we want to focus on this specifically, then we're talking about how can you make sense of, the difference, between, self-made cards and the Lomo cards. To the fact, how can we see that as a kind of fan creativity? That's one question. The other question is, if we situate the photo cards amongst the different kinds of fan creativity, from fanfics to fan merchandise to, many of my students now carry this little bag, plastic bag with, in Hong Kong we call them tong dai, is pain bag. It's of course very weighty. That's why it's painful to carry them. So we're talking about a certain kind of creativity that is also fetches its own material and commercial purpose. Like what you said, it's very convenient, right? You just bring it along. And that resonates with the earlier generation of SIM cards, right? Created for sports, football players, SIM cards for all the celebrities, right? So again, how is this, photo card specific in that sense? The other layer of question could be that, of course, these fan cards are made, as you so rightfully point out, it's done for almost like a social justice purpose to approximate our love for the idols from thousands of miles away to a village in South Africa. That's kind of intimation. That's the kind of one level approximation, but also in terms of price. How the shops, in order to sell more, of course, they are making their own photo cards. They themselves might be fans too. How do they make these photo cards and cheap at a cheaper price? So you're talking about this level of ambient intimacy, which serves different layers of intimacy here. So can you tell us a bit more, during your interviews, what's the rationale behind making these fan cards? How do making these fan cards for the fans themselves make them feel more intimate with their idols? How did they feel that they benefited their community? Did they serve a kind of communal building kind of purpose? And so on and so forth, within limits of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, for the wonderful discussion. Before listening to response from presenters, I want to invite question from the floor to save some time. So to collect all the question, finally the presenter will respond to both the discussant and the question. So please your hand, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 cut. Sorry, no, because he raised the phone. So please, the question is a little bit pricey.
Thank you so much for both of your wonderful presentations. It was really enjoyable. And also, my question is about your presentation, William. I was really happy to see Bo Ruberg's book in your presentation. I really loved your angle of study, bringing gender into the gaming studies and spectatorship. Having said that, I started wondering why you put Korean esports in the framework of local, because as I understood you, the game as software or algorithm, they were indeed developed in the United States or Japan, but the whole esports arena and also esports spectatorship, it emerged in South Korea in the 1990s. So why do you still put esports in Korea, or fan culture or spectatorship in Korea as local? And what is then the universal? And you also even draw the analogy between the cricket of the UK and India, which is slightly different, I guess, because cricket has been played in the UK too. And but in Korean case or esports case, well, games were played in the United States or other countries too, but the culture surrounding it, it was developed in the Korea. So why do you put South Korean esports culture in the local?
Thank you. please pass the mic to the lady.
Thank you very much for both presenters. It was fascinating. I would like to suggest both of you to zoom out. Like, it's very focused research right now. Let's just reframe it. And if I think if I think about esports, I think gender and sports right now, it's such a hot topic, especially in the United States. Men, women, and the whole range in between. So I think this studies on gender and how it should be or should not be integrated in sports, it's such an can give you a lot of inspiration. And if not physical sports, maybe chess, right? There's a big discussion in chess, women, men, it's not a physical sport, why there's still more men playing that, right? So I think it might give a lot of thoughts about this. For a bit, I really like this media and material culture. It's such a missing focus in fandom studies. It's so material and usually dismissed as, this Marxist opium for masses, right? But actually it has so much meaning for fans. It's symbolic. And I would suggest to go as far as to religion studies, because who carries the symbol, material symbol of let's say science, right? Sometimes we go as far as to pilgrimage to collect hairs, or sometimes it's just a little picture of the saint, which is always with me. And not only in Christianity, basically in every religion, we see this small piece of idol, different kind of gods that we carry. So they might be inspired by this religious practice and might be not. And I think it might give some inspiration. Thank you.
You. The question, two more. I think we cannot, how to say, have all the questions, but raise your hand. So please, two. Yeah, there, Jongwon, and then Jilman Bia.
So thanks so much for your presentation. And Tabitha, your presentation is fascinating. So actually, I have made my own photo card, making use of the photos and videos I took when hosting the birthday events, etc. So I'm wondering within South African Kpop fandom, how and where do fans find or search for the resources to make their own photo card? Because in the Korean the scene, fans don't think photo cards just printing selfies posted to the idols' social media are not authentic. So the Korean fan-made photo cards are basically from the photos and videos fan directly take themselves. So I'm wondering how is it different between Korean fan-made photo card and South African fan-made photo card?
Thank you. I have a question for William. Because you mentioned about Korean fans in Korean esports, but I was thinking, oh, you mentioned something about Korean or K-pop fandom as well. But I wasn't so sure if that was part of your findings, or you were just discussing it about as a part of the literature. But do you think you could relate Korean women being fans of Korean esports to K-pop fandom in terms of practices, like the similarities of that, the link, because you mentioned something about that earlier, and also for Tabitha, it's a little bit close to her question earlier, but because the examples that you showed about the photo cards, even if they're fan made, it looks like it came out from a social media post of a company or certain events. So obviously they're not taken by fans themselves. So isn't that like a copyright infringement, or is it considered a transformative work like fine arts, things like that?
Thank you. I think it's time for to give mic to the presenters. And so I think each presenter have about 3 minutes to respond. So I mean, we have another wonderful presentation behind this. So, dear William, could you begin with responding to the
Sure.
discussed
Yeah,
questions?
I can go first. Let me. So the 3 questions. The basically asking what brings female fans to kind of esports in Korea. Like what's the kind of driving attention? If that's what I'm remembering the first question being. There is a strong development of kind of like narrative and development of kind of like personal interaction, not only with the players, but also with kind of like the broadcast. And so what Korean local esports scenes kind of like do is they leverage this particular like story building between like not only the rise of like the fans and the work they're working, but like their interaction, the rise of the players and kind of like how they're striving to overcome like the adverse difficulties of being a player. But there becomes this kind of like interplay where the fans are communicating with the broadcasters through fan signs and this particular kind of like interaction back and forth. There's a larger kind of like narrative drive that kind of goes into the development of local Korean esports that you don't see as much in kind of like global esports broadcasting. And so that kind of personalized interaction and kind of this development of a very intimate relationship between fan and the labor side kind of develops and is really interesting and was really provocative for a lot of these female fans that I talked to about how they could have an opportunity to kind of like follow the stories and the person that they like. Very kind of similarly to you have a favorite idol that you kind of like follow their career so along. The second question of why do I put Korean esports in the concept of local? So you're right. The way that we understand esports in the kind of like the modern tradition does come from Korea. Proto esports kind of goes back to like the arcades in the 1970s and 80s, and that actually kind of like does stem from a particular kind of like American sense of culture and gameplay. Largely, that was different from how it exploded in the Korean scene. But the reason why I view Korea as this major kind of local source is that despite the fact that these esports games are developed in, like in the case in Irvine, here or outside of Korea very frequently, unless you're talking about PUBG, so frequently, in at least in the case of Overwatch and many of the others as well, the player labor is Korean. So for the Overwatch League and the leagues that I was looking at, it was over 60% were Korean players. So as a result of that, like the way that kind of like Korean players are kind of engaging with the games, the ways that they're developing strategies and communications and kind of attempting to understand the optimal ways to play, that becomes a means of kind of understanding and excelling at the game. So to kind of get better and be like a successful esports talent is to kind of like absorb and monitor and kind of like incorporate particular Korean styles and modes of play. The last question, kind of like the Kpop, the practices that exist in esports that are kind of like emblematic of Kpop fandom. There's actually a lot. So it's interesting. There are also fan cards that are developed and given when you attend these events, but it's not only of the players of the teams, but like I said, the interviewers and the broadcasters are also kind of like included in this particular situation. And as a result of that, there becomes like an informal kind of like trading commodity where people are trying to get all of the different cards to be able to kind of like complete the set of particular like achievement hunting and collecting. You also have a similar situation of attempting to collect signatures and kind of like the gift giving that you see that is so very commonly seen in kind of like K-pop fandom as well.
Thank you. Tabitha, it's your turn.
Thank you. I will start from the back. So about copyright topics and which pictures do they use? So they do not use their own pictures. So they take pictures from online and then they take these pictures and they are aware of the issues with copyright, but they're like, oh, we're just such small vendors, so it doesn't make really a difference. So they think, okay, it's a gray area, but it's okay. But actually, there's been research on that on K-pop fandom internationally that they think you should buy the original content and that you need to support the group. This is something I found not to be true in South Africa because there's not much original content, or there is content, but it's really expensive. So most people, except for 2 people, told me, oh, it's okay, just as long as it's K-pop, it's fun, it's fine, just buy it. And the two people who said it's not okay was one, she was born in South Africa but lived in China the majority of her life, and the other one, she was a 65-year-old K-pop fan who had connections and the resources to import through Europe. So the rest of them, they were like, just buy if you like it. And also about taking their own picture, there has been research on boy band fans in the 2000s in Europe who had been sharing pictures through mail programs. So they were mailing each other the pictures, also original pictures. But that's something that's not possible in South Africa because the groups don't come to South Africa. So you would have to travel outside of Africa to take the picture. So it's considered okay within the fandom to use these pictures. And about religion studies, that's also something I wanted to look into because, like I told you, there has been this guy who worked on Weverse on this fan app. He told us, "Oh yeah, K-pop fans are apostles," and that's how they view fans and how they develop this app. So there's clearly kind of a religious background and a thinking of how fans interact with content and how they are viewed. So that's something I really want to look into as well. But I didn't think about like in this regard yet. So thank you so much for your comment. And about the intimate and the communal building. So I think there's still original photo cards in South Africa, but it's a lot of the sense of, oh, I want to support this girl because she's also a fan, so I want to buy from her and then support her little shop. So, and it's because it's a small community, there's a lot of like connection and community building and the sense of, because usually there are not many photo cards that you could buy directly, so most of them are inclusions with something, and the high prices come through not being available and through other fans inflating the price. So it's not like a piece of paper is not worth so much money. So that's how, okay, if I just produce a picture and then have a bit of profit, then I will still make profit. And then they find cheap ways to produce these cards. And in South Africa, obviously, also the cost for production is really low as well. But yes, I don't know if I answered your question, but because of time reasons, maybe we can talk later. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and please give big rounds of applause to the both presenters and discussant. And I want to invite the next speaker, next presenter, Hemi Lim from University of Paris. She is going to present about the performing Korea, K-pop, cover dance, and the transformation of public space in France. Please welcome her.
Good afternoon, everyone. And first of all, thank you for being here. And I'd like to also especially thanks to Professor Hong Seok-kyung for this opportunity and pioneering the K-pop studies. My name is Hemi Lim. I'm a PhD candidate in sociology in Université Paris-Cité. Today, I'm honored to be present my research on K-pop cover dance in France, focusing on how young people in France turn public spaces into stages, gain visibility and recognition through their performance. So K-pop has becomes a global cultural force, as you know all. But my research explores what happened locally in France, as well as globally in online spaces where performers circulate. And also through the cover dance, young people in France embody and reinterpret K-pop in public spaces. Although most dancers are young, the age range is actually very diverse. So my questions are: how do young people practice K-pop cover dance in France, and how do they negotiate visibility and recognition, and how does practice reflect a question of identity, belongings, and diverse migrant backgrounds? This research is a qualitative study conducted in France from 2022 because I first began my work on K-pop cover dance while my master dissertation. And at the time, I was more like interested in self-learning and art and cultural education. And for this doctoral work, I combined several approaches, interviews. There's a with the students, aspiring idols, workers, autodidacts, and field work. There's mainly in public spaces, as I mentioned, and I will share the pictures later. Nearby La Défense. I know there's some French scholar here, so Bercy is also National Library, Eiffel Tower, and I'll share some photos later on. And so I'm also participant observation. I attended to, I danced, I also performed on the stage with BOG crew during festivals such as called Kpop Plus Festival and at the City Hall. And a group inspiring young women, I will explain you later on, as whom I will, although I no longer dance professionally, but I used to be a professional street dancer. This explains, this experience allowed me to understand their practice and emotions from the inside, and also their, of course, media analysis and theoretical frameworks. So, most of my interviewees are self-taught, learning choreographies via YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all the platforms, which encourage peer learning and adaptation. At the first sight, digital technology seems to make learning accessible to everyone, but in reality, resources remain unequal, as Bourdieu reminds us. For example, young people live in certain area outside of Paris often struggle to participate, since most of important events are happening in Paris or Lyon, like a big city. They also do not have the same financial resources, of course. So there is some technique that they can save money. For example, they buy clothes and they return it just after filming. It's a little bit tricky, but this kind of these kind of things reveals both creativity and constraint as well. So friendship is also central social bond. Crews are often spend an entire weekend together, rehearsing, dancing, and also eating, sharing times. It's not just practicing choreography, but also building community and solidarity. In short, governance is not just an imitation, but also practice of creativity, bonding, and performing. So second finding, I said public space and recognition. Practice takes place in well-known public such as, I will show the photo later on, La Défense Bercy, National Library, and even at the Eiffel Tower. Of course, I guess you guys all know Eiffel Towers is familiar to everyone. For example, La Défense is not is a financier share district. There are dancers used to use open scare, or even there's abandoned building that has four by glasses work. They use it as a mirror to see themselves. So at the VNF or National Library, the vast esplanade has become an improvised dance studio as well. I will show you later on. And by occupying these spaces, dancers appropriate urban environment as a stages. Sorry. They also claim visibility and recognition through their practice and performance. And from my observation and my own participation, I have seen that on the sunny weekends, there's from between 100 till 200 young people gather in nearby La Défense, the financier district, and they do just practice K-pop. It's really fascinating. And nearby National Library as well, but there's not only K-pop dancers. There's hip hopper or voguing dancers, if you know voguing, like dancers, or salsa, tango as well. So yeah, more, and also even some sports practice as well. Nowadays, some dancers blend. So as you know, K-pop they don't only do K-pop or do hip hop and as well. So where they happen? I normally it's photos and video that I took. It's the nearby National Library called Bibliothèque François Mitterrand, c'est BNF. So I took secretly, but there's a lot of practice going on. Sorry, it was not good angle. We don't see anything, so sorry about it. This area is nearby La Défense. Even in La Défense, there's several spots that we can dance practice. It's me and BOG crew somewhere. No sound, but it's okay. Yeah, it's here. There's some workers who walk by as well. This one is inside of the metro station. There's we use this word as a mirror. This one is nearby. I think there's a startup places. Yeah, many spots there. So public spaces is transformed into a cultural stage and making performance visible to society at large. So they rehearsing this kind of place and also filming, video shooting organized by Landmark, as I mentioned, at Eiffel Tower or Champs-Élysées, Louvre Museum, etc. So finding three, I wrote transnational dynamics. Korean choreography circulate to Paris, where they are learned, adapted, and uploaded back online, becoming part of continued global exchange. A good example for BOG crew that I already mentioned, which I performed with, the group included dancers of various backgrounds, some semi-Korean or Moroccan, French with origin Algerian, Congolese, Senegalese, and Vietnamese. So their personal backgrounds were also very diverse. Among them, there was an engineer, orthodontist, master students in mathematics, or artist students, and me, a PhD candidate. Across the Paris, many different K-pop crew exist, and I will give you some example. For example, one of the crew is composed mainly only Asian, but their aim is promoting, explaining there's not only East Asian do and K-pop dancers such as Korean, Chinese, Japanese, but also South West and Central Asian, including Vietnamese or Pakistanis, Indian, etc. So, and another crew that I did interview. Sorry, they was formed entirely of only women of African origin, and it wasn't their intention, but they were just a group of friends who was becoming a crew. Another crew was from the in contrast to some of groups are great. They want to show the whoa. Sorry, there are a lot of crew. So reaction to Francis are mixed, as you can guess. Some audience are really supportive, especially there's some family members or a close friend. For example, one time I went to the performing arts in the theater, and it was full booked to K-pop concert, and there was an elder woman was there, and I was asking, "Oh, how did you come here? How do you know K-pop?" And he said, "Because my grandson is performing, so I'm here." So at the time, one K-pop dancer could be mediator as well, because in French, K-pop pronounced K-pop. It's even harder to know for elders. There's community. I will go fast. So there's, of course, tension and discrimination, or for example, pressure and fatigue. Most dancers are students that have a job unrelated to the K-pop. They sacrifice their weekends for rehearsal or for performance, which is physically and mentally exhausting. Unequal resources add to the pressure and often burnout. There's sexism and racism. For example, I put some images here. There was a lot of course, Jenny cover dance, and there's comments such as, "Jenny's not black, Jenny's not fat." It said that, yeah, it was cruel. So several interviews told me that they avoid to reading comments or delete hateful ones just right after because their teammates can't see that. So there's a racism, body shaming, or even homophobia remain common and leading and self-censorship. There's a precarious fan naval as well. There was a big concert in Paris in Accra Arena, I guess, and they were entertainment company. They said, oh, you can dance with idols, so you should come. But so there was competition to dance with them, but it was free labor even though they invested their time and money, etc. And also there's public leaks such as there's really people who interrupt their filming physically to stop the video. It's really annoying things. So in short, those tensions highlight the limits of transformation as well. Passionate creative coexist with discrimination, precarity, and vulnerability. So how do you expansion is focused consumption to create production, urban space, public sites signified as a cultural stage, youth cultural autonomy network, and shared emotion. And I wrote a phrase that from my participant code through the Kpop awareness, I found where I belong and a way to share emotions with others. Yeah, so I think it's all good for me. I thank you for your kind attention, and I look forward to questions and comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I invite all the presenters as well as discussant over here. Our discussant is Professor Kim Seok-young from University of California, Los Angeles. She will discuss about the 10 minutes for 2 papers. Please welcome her.
Hi. So I was really glad to have a chance to comment on these papers, which create such interesting interface. I'd like to start with one of my favorite quotes because I was greatly inspired by the walking as object method session. And it's from an Argentinian scholar whose name is Nestor Garcia Conclini. And he said, anthropologists walk, sociologists drive. And if I may add to that line, I would say hustlers in gig economy dance, and they tend to dance to K-pop. I mean, this is the 2 papers analyze K-pop dance to really encourage us to think about the bodily movements that claim public space, including media space. And to zoom out of this immediate conversations from very specific localities, if you generally think about the history of collective bodies moving in unison in public space, I mean, it is always a highly politicized movement. Just think of marching military through squares and streets, right? So it is no wonder that their case studies inevitably open up dynamic friction between, quote unquote, the origins of movement and where it's circulating in a very different environment. So I think I would like to focus on a couple of things first that really bring those 2 papers together into a conversation. And I'd like, for the sake of convenience, I'd like to call the dance teachers in Beijing and also crew members in Paris as celebrity adjacent figures. Because I think there was a lot of circling in and out of fame and shame in the case of France. And, you know, I mentioned celebrity adjacent and hustlers in gig economy. And I just want to clarify that it's not to dismiss K-pop dancers as ruthless self-promoters or seekers of fame by association, but it is to really visit the pressure points of those moments where issues such as passing, self-censorship, and inevitably authenticity have to be confronted in a very specific local context. So I think passing as celebrities or idol replacement, right? I mean, in your case, you mentioned Jenny, which was really a shocking response, right, that they received. This notion of passing really opens up really rich conversations about what is happening in both locations. So classical sociologists such as Irving Goffman said, it is stigma management strategy, pointing to the self-censorship issues, or critical race theorists have pointed to the privileges and perils of passing, often as white by non-white folks. And it really points to the issues of social mobility at personal cost. So it inevitably harks back to the question of authenticity. Queer and gender studies scholars have exposed passing as the instability of identitarian categories, right? Especially Butler in Gender Trouble said, queer passing challenges binary frameworks, but also reinforces them, right? So these quasi-celebrity figures, in a way, show the kind of tinkering possibilities of social mobilities, but ends up reinforcing them to a certain degree. Passing is not always a concealment, but also affirms the lived experience of those contradictions. It is also a demand for disclosure about the unstable identities. So in a way, I tend to side with the camp that passing is not really an undermining gesture of authentic identity, but I'm a performance studies scholar, so I tend to believe that all identity is performative. So passing simply makes hyper-visible what everyone else is already doing. Everyone else is passing. So the question for you is, both of you, is why is dance, in particular, not singing, not songwriting, not vlogging, but why is dance, through its all kinesthetic capabilities, becoming a venue for some type of passing in this sense? So that's for both. And just to think about, the local histories around passing and authenticity, I want to kind of make you think as historians a little bit. So this applies to both of you. Two locations are very different, yet we see very similar symptomatic signs around K-pop cover dance and teaching. So can you kind of think more historically about the local conditions which created particular environment for something like K-pop dance to be received? And I assume that those histories cannot be the same. So think about in terms of more longer cultural duration of something like K-pop dance to arrive in Paris or Beijing. And I'd like to push a bit further beyond dance. And I found that Hemi's video was mute. It was really funny because I had a comment about it. K-pop cover dance on streets claim not only physical space, but it occupies our soundscape, right? I was walking in Berlin near Alexanderplatz last year, and I suddenly heard Stray Kids song, S-Class, blasting it. And I knew that there was a K-pop cover dance going on somewhere. So I followed the sound and yeah, there they were. It's very loud. So thinking about the history, local history, which opens for the reception of K-pop dance to be articulated in their particular societies, what are some of the regulations around sound, right? Each city has different regulations around sound. Musicologist Leonardo Cardoza, for example, wrote a fascinating book about sound politics in Sao Paulo, and it really is a kind of interesting vignette to think about the history of the city. So in Hemi's case, when they go and dance in La Défense, do they have permit? What is the decimal allowance? So all of those kind of makes us think about why sometimes they're subject to shame. And have to practice self-censorship. And in terms of Mei Cheng's paper, I mean, your fascinating kind of journey of in and out and online, that kind of like meandering of public space is really interesting. So can we retell that story through the sound, right? Well, what is the difference there or similarities? So I'll stop my comment there. Thank you.
Thank you. While two presenters are preparing wonderful question to the discussion, I want to invite question from the floor. So if you have question, raise your hands. Okay. And yeah, first. Yeah, Professor first.
Thank you very much. It will be just a very quick question. And I'm just want to what extent, probably it's very related to what Professor Kim Sa-kyung was talking about, but I have a more specific kind of a question to Chinese the context. As far as I understand, there is a kind of tradition about Gwangjang-wu, the dancing in the outside plaza. That's a really kind of a well-known the kind of tradition, which is probably still going on. And I'm also wondering if in France, I mean, if there's any such kind of a outdoor performance tradition, which probably it is a link to what is really happening in a street dance. And going back to Chinese question, and I'm wondering if the being kind of very much actively engaged in K-pop kind of activity somehow is not necessarily something very people would like to speak out explicitly. So maybe being a teacher or being engaged in the K-pop activity somehow needs to be maybe more subdued publicly. I mean, I'm just wondering if there's a certain sense of a touch of a self-censorship in that respect. I'm just wondering if there's any the thing. And going back to the French situation, because in the UK, not very many the K-pop cover dance they go outside. Of course, the weather probably has something to do with it because it rains all the time. But they really do not choose to go out and perform even random dance and so on and so forth. So it's probably more specifically more French rather than British. Yeah. Sorry.
Question, Benjamin. Yeah, over here, please.
So thank you. So I appreciate that both presentations kind of look at K-pop through the lens of space. So my question is, how do you see the distinction between space versus place? Kind of how space converts into a place, and also kind of the act of kind of claiming ownership or occupying these spaces, right? And how that contributes to identity formation or even passing, and how like spaces become performances as themselves. So I'd like to maybe hear your thoughts about.
I think a couple of more questions will be possible. Raise your hand. I give a chance who does not give a chance first. So.
Thank you for both presenters. I learned a lot from both of you. My question is for primarily for Mei Cheng. Of course, I mean, if you want to take my questions, you can do that in your own way. I'm a gender and sexuality scholar, so I was I became curious when I was listening to Mei Cheng's presentation. So how are the scenes of K-pop and street dances gendered? So I think I heard some part of gendered landscape of K-pop in France in Hemi's presentation, because you touched on the issues of the cover dance of Jenny and the misogynistic and like racist responses toward that. But during the Mei Cheng's presentation, you might have covered it, but I couldn't get a clear sense of what's happening in the gender landscape of cover dances or K-pop dances or street dances. I think this question is important because you were talking about social mobilities. So if those dancing scenes are represented and preoccupied solely by male dancers, it means social mobilities or fame culture in China or the culture around Beijing might have been said as gendered as well. So yeah, my question is about gender. That is my first question, and second question is about sexuality. So one of the main marketable items of K-pop industry right now is I think is a kind of sexual slashing relationship between male members of boy bands, right? So fans are making fictions or some video editing of two male dancers or singers on or off the stage, and yeah, they are actually doing a kind of effective labors to promote their groups. So I became wondered about, is it a same kind of cultural practice going on Chinese K-pop and hip-hop dancing scenes? Thank you.
Yeah. End of this. Okay, so Jongwon, would you be, final question from Jongwon, please be
Thank
short.
you. So both of your presentations are very interesting, and I have a comment to Hemi. So it's related to Professor Kim's comment. So when it comes to the performance of Korea through K-pop dance covers in France, I think I would like to ask you to deepen analyzing what kind of the Korean is, or what kind of Korea could be performed or represented beyond the musical sounds, the K-pop musical sounds, and then choreography, which fill in the French public space. So I think that would be nice for you to deepen your analysis in your dissertation.
So it's time for presenter to respond. Hemi first? No? Or anyone is okay. So but yeah, you can go first. 3 minutes per person, please. Thank you.
thought I will be the second. Yeah. Thank you very much for Prof. Kim's comments and questions, and also all the audience's questions and comments. Yeah, I will try to, there are so many questions. I will try to answer those. Then for first, for the why stands for as a venue for identity passing. I think I didn't finish it in the presentation. Before I read some literature to use identity passing to explain K-pop cover dance, but I thought that previous research was mainly about K-pop fans, but in the situation of K-pop dance teachers, I think their situation is a bit different from K-pop fans. They, most of them have thought about to become an idol trainee, or even they were trainees before. And one of the interviewees, because I did the interviews 2 years earlier, one of the interviewees who used to be a K-pop teacher, now she already debuted in a group, signed a contract with a Korean company. So I think maybe this can, the concept used before can not fully explain the situation to Chinese K-pop dance teachers, and also it can be maybe may explain the situation in a country or in a very different, well, very far away from Korea, but China is very close to Korea, and K-pop culture has been transmitted in the country for a very long time. So I think maybe can partially explain, but maybe need to find other explanations. Then for the local history, the environment for K-pop dance. I think I need more time to think about it. Yeah. Yeah. Then for Prof. Ohm's question about, yeah, Guangchangwu is still ongoing nowadays in China. It's really interesting. Like, the elderlies, they kind of occupy the public space, the parks, the squares. Then for the youngsters, they tend to be stay indoors. The question actually reminded me that one of my friends is studying skateboarding. Skateboarders in China, the young skateboarders, they in the past decades, they fight with the police. The police don't want them to skateboarding on the squares. They fight with the police, but the Guangchangwu uncles and aunties occupy the space. Then the skateboarders, they have to find other places. Now there are skateboarding parks. They have to pay the tickets to skateboard there. Yeah. So for the one of my K-pop interviewees said that she studied in the UK. So at that time, they very often they dance K-pop in public spaces, in outdoor spaces. But in China, it's people tend to dance only in the studios, but not to show in to the strangers or yeah. I think I don't know the full reasons, but it reminds me that in the street dance studios, sometimes the classes teach sexy dance, then they will have the curtain to block the people seeing that. Yeah, sometimes there's a delivery guy will maybe film it. Yeah, the dance teacher, once I didn't really notice anything, and then when dance teacher ran out to shout to that guy. Yeah. And I have no time. Yeah, maybe Amy. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the amazing comments and questions. It will help my thesis a lot. First of all, I'd like to apologize. I think the lack of my capacity of English. I don't think like I fully understand all those your questions. I will think about more. But first of all, Professor, you asked about why dance, not a singing, drawing, picturing as well. Those things. I think dancing, especially cover dance, K-pop needs a lot of coordinating in group. I mean, singing one K-pop cover song, we can do it, even though it was sing a song by 7 people, we can still, one person can do it. But I think cover dancing is a really necessitate a lot of time and rehearsing. I think that's one of the reasons dance K-pop cover dance is special for me, I think. And what was the other question? A lot of question. For example, in France and in public place, I think there was before K-pop there was already cultural practices such as swing dance or salsa. It's more like partner dancing. I think already existed before. And for the weather problem, we had while preparing the performance. We had the same problem as well, but there's some spots that covered by canopy, like it calls Songcat. It's a 104. There is a performing arts center, and center is open to all the performers, so we can go there freely. Or yeah, there's some places, or we go they go to the metro station and they dance. And also, yes, exactly, for the sound regulation. So the people, the dancers, we really want to film cover dance in such as a Trocadero is next to just in front of the Eiffel Tower. But yes, they need to really be careful because police can come and stop your performance after the 5 minutes. So they be really quick. Yeah, I think there's a regulation. I don't remember really well, and so they need to be careful. But the area, La Défense, this area, there's really big buildings abandoned, so there's normally no one who bother them. But still, there's some delinquents come there to bother the K-pop dancers. It's really a shame. Performing Korea, why Korea? But I cannot define these. Korea thing, but I just want to restrict this K-pop, cover dance. What else wanted to say? Just no more. I'm so sorry about it. Woo. I think. Is there?
Yeah, you are not required to answer
Let's
to all
keep
the questions.
talking by mail.
Before
Thank you very
end
much.
The session, Professor Jin, do you have any announcement or whatever?
Thanks so much for giving me time. So I have the one comment and one announcement. So William Duncan presented a very interesting paper on their esports, and you asked about Korea as the local versus global. But I wanted to take a part in, but I had no time. So I will give you some. Unlike the K-pop, K-drama, esports is the very different one, and Korea is the mecca of esports or capital of esports. Therefore, unlike the K-pop, there are many popular music, American popular music, Latin music. Therefore, we cannot say this is the local versus global, but in terms of the esports, and Korea is the local but global as well. So because Korean esports has been one of the most advanced and they are leading figure in developing several. So let me give you 3 examples. The first one is the institutionalization, meaning unlike the early stage of esports developed in the United States in the 1980s, Korea developed the esports, modern esports, contemporary esports. Therefore, the combination between sports, game, and TV, meaning media, came first in South Korea. So when I made the book Korea's online game empire in 2010, I made the notion of the esports based on the Korean esports. So the institutionalization is from South Korean esports, therefore it's global. Secondly, Korea made the World Gaming League. So based on the boom of the Korean esports. So it's another the figure why we call the Korea not local only but global. Lastly, as Duncan himself talked about, now 60% of the players in North America in the League of Legends and Overwatch are Koreans, 60%. So they used to be the players for the strategy games or MMORPGs, but now they are playing for their person-to-person shooter games. So because of the emphasis on the MMORPGs, strategy games in South Korea, they thought that the Koreans were not good at person-to-person shooter games, but they are leading figures, including the faker Lee Sang-hyuk. So the Overwatch is gone because of the internal problem, but League of Legends is still on, and the leaders are always Koreans. So in that way, it's still Korean. So there are several. So esports, it's not local only. Korean esports, it's global. So please, think about it. Think about that. One announcement. 2 days ago, we had the graduate the seminar, fascinating. Yesterday, we had the round table. We had some the sessions today. Based on my observation, I want to invite the presenters to submit the papers to Korean Journal of Communication I'm editing. So that's the announcement, right? So I think that at the end, establish the scholars. You don't need to make another paper in the Journal of Communication. So please, submit your paper to Korean Journal of Communication. New one, but for you guys. And at the end, the graduate student, Journal of Communication is your dream the journal. So too far. But take your opportunity with the new journal, Korean Journal of Communication. It has been published by the University of Texas Press, so very promising. So I'm the editor, so very promising. So please submit I'm receiving particularly paper for the July 2026 issue. So as long as you say, oh, yeah, I presented the paper at the Seoul National University, then I will take it. Okay, so
thank you.
please submit your paper. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you, Rob, again. So let's conclude the panel with a round of applause. Thank you.